Hi, I'm Tammy, and we're here today in Marietta, Georgia to learn about VHub operations from a practical standpoint or a field standpoint. VHub is a virtual hub. And I want to give a shout out to Charles Spencer, who was so gracious enough to send Ron Woods to teach us today, as well as one of his other techs to train is Kevin Green. I want to thank Jason Gardner, who was so kind to lend us our videographer, the guy behind the camera, and our film editor, Fred Dawson. Thank you, Fred. And I brought with me James Gregory, and this is our day to train and learn about the VHubs, so we thought, why not share it with you?
Good morning. This is Ron Woods with Comcast. We're going to be doing a little training video today to show you how we work on the fiber and the VHubs. But before we get started, I'm going to go over some of the tools you may need to use in troubleshooting. All right, first tool we're going to start with is the EPM 50 fiber meter, power meter. This will check your light coming into the fiber. You got your power button, you got your frequencies, and you got your dBs, your dBms. So you're gonna need this to check your light. You're gonna also need a power adapter that you're gonna use for your ONU. This is where you're gonna use to check your RF when you hook up to the fiber. You're gonna need a red light source. Right here, this is a 10 millimeter red light source, milliwatt red light source to shoot your fiber with. You're gonna also need a can wrench to open up your FDH cabinet. So you want this in your tool arsenal. And you're gonna need APC fiber cleaner, one-click fiber cleaner. And you will need your scissors to cut the fiber with. And always keep a pair of your safety glasses with you when you're cutting fiber. And this is a jumper that I have in my kit for troubleshooting purposes to test the light coming out of the ONU or coming out of the FDH cabinet. And last but not least, this is our Fujikura 22S Fusion Splicer. This is what we're going to be using today to splice connectors. It comes in a kit. You got a power cord, you got your solution spray, you got your straight splices, scissors, strippers, and a battery pack. And this is to support the fiber when you putting a connector on. And it comes with a cleaver. That's your little kit, your CT06 Fujikura cleaver. And you got all your little connectors that you use, your holders for your fiber splicing. First thing I want to do is I need to change this connector right here because I'm gonna have to test some fiber and I can't test it with this with two different type of connectors on this fiber. So we'll prep this jumper right now just for testing purposes. I'm gonna cut that connector off. And put this little tool on this jumper for support when I strip my fiber so it don't suck back in. And once I start stripping, you'll see what I mean. Okay, we're getting ready to put on a 3 millimeter connector. And first thing you want to do, open your little kit up and get your little sleeves. Get your connector and your sleeve. It has to go on. It has to go on first before you can prep your fiber connector.
Do me a favor. Hold those in your hand so I can see them. All right, you good.
Okay, when you put on this sleeve, you want to make sure the spring is pointing in the direction of where you're gonna do your splice. So you're gonna drop that on, then you're gonna put your sleeve on, your other little splicing sleeve. Now you have to put this on a certain way. You can't put it on in any direction. You have to put the smaller, the small end with the smaller diameter on first, and the bigger end with the bigger diameter on last, facing where you're going to be splicing. If you don't put this on correct, you're not going to get a good splice. You're going to have to splice it over again. So make sure you put these two on before you start splicing your fiber, or you're going to have to cut it and start over again. So use your tray to measure where you're going to cut. For you beginners that haven't done this, I would recommend that you use a marker, and you can mark it right here. But I've been doing this for a while, so I use my finger to guide me. So we're going to strip that jacket off first. Then you're going to grab the Kevlar. This is called Kevlar. You're going to twist it real tight. You're going to put it on your tray so you can measure where to cut it. I normally grab it right here and pull it like that. And you're going to grab that in and cut the rest of that Kevlar off. You don't want to cut it too long, and you don't want to cut it too short. You cut it too short, it's not going to fill up the tube when you're doing your splicing. If you cut it too long, it's going to hang out of the tube, and you don't want it to hang out of the tube. So you can go back and measure it and see. I think I need to cut just a little bit more off. So twist it. You really need some good scissors to cut this stuff with, because it's hard to cut. Okay, that should be good enough. Okay, now you're going to use your 250 micron. That's the middle stripper. And you're going to grab this fiber up here, because you're only going to do a little bit at a time. You can't do the whole fiber or it won't work. You'll break it. Just a little bit at a time. And it comes right off. Keep going till you get down to the bottom. And this is why you have this little holder on here. You see, when I'm stripping it, if I didn't have this little holder on here, this fiber would slide back through. So that's the purpose of having this holder on here, right here, to keep that fiber from sliding back through the jacket. So we're going to come back here, we're going to put it up here and measure it. We still got a little bit more to cut, because we want to cut it right here where that line comes. And there we go. That should be good enough right there. All right, now we're going to use a different type of stripping tool so we can get a really clean cut on the 125 micron part of the glass. We're going to strip this glass, and you're going to see the little slight dielectric on the coaxial cable is going to come off. Okay, we're getting ready to strip this the fiber core right now with the 125 micron. You probably notice I'm using some different strippers. That's because I'm familiar with this kit, and these work better when you get down to the core. The other kits that you have at your company, they also have strippers in there that you'll be able to use, so you'll be fine. So here we go. I got my light on, my headlight, and I got my bifocals on. You're gonna need those if you're over 40 to help you strip this glass. See that? That's what you want to see when you strip that glass. You want to see that little dielectric come off. Okay, that's good. Now we're gonna come over here and we're gonna use some alcohol to clean the fiber with. All your kits should have this in it, and you'll have some wipes in your kit. I'm going to take this, soak it with alcohol. No, I don't want to cooperate. There we go. Grab this like that and just swipe it. You can do it a couple of times. That feels good. Okay, now this is where we go and use our cleaver. Let me come over here. I'm getting this ready right now, so when I put my fiber in my little holder, I don't have to look for my cleaver. You want to pull this, push this all the way to the edge and drop it in just like that. You can spin it to get it where you want it. Once you get it in the holder, flip both of these over. Hold it in place like that. Drop it in your cleaver. Drop this door over and press straight down hard, just like that. And then spin it, and that's a clean cut. There you go. Now, as you notice, I have my strap on Fusion Splicer, because you're going to be in some tough spots when you go into these homes, and you're not going to be able to put a table in there. So you're going to need to use these straps to hold a splicer in place. You're going to drop this little holder in here like that, and normally I would have a connector ready, but you can take one out of your little kit and drop it in on the other side. Drop that in there like that. Close your door. Turn your kit on. Turn your Fusion Splicer on. And you have to set this Fusion Splicer for 3mm connectors. If you're using 900 micron, you have to set it for 900 micron connectors. Right now I have it set for 3mm connectors. Hit set. It's splicing right there. You don't have to do anything. Sit back. That's a good splice. 0.02. That's not bad. Okay. When you open this up, I normally put my finger right here to hold it in place because this has a little spring on it. When you release these little latches, it's going to spring back. And then I open this up. I grab the fiber, hold it in place, grab it with my finger, and then I pull it out just like that. This is the part where you have to be careful because you got to slide, you got to try to get the sleeve down there without breaking the fiber. Let's see if I can turn that around, because normally you're going to be by yourself, so you can pull that sleeve down once you get it close. Grab it like this and slide it like that. And you see that Kevlar where it meets up to the little connector? That's what you want it to do. You want it to meet. If you can cut it to where it'll meet all the way up, the closer the better. And there you go. You got your sleeve on there. Now you're going to put it in here, your holder. Make sure it's all the way close, because when you drop it in here, you don't want it sliding back out. And you see your little red light? That means it's heat shrinking right now. You don't have to do anything. Just let it sit in there. It'll do the work. Then this light will cut off. That's when you know it's ready. And that's pretty much it to cutting a connector. But it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice.
You can clearly see why it's important to have the small end and the large end in the right places for the sleeve, how it nicely fit into the connector. Anybody have any questions while we're waiting?
What is a good splice? We see 0.02. You said that's good. What are the minimum specifications on this?
I think it's 0 to 0. Anything less than 0.5
Okay.
is a good splice. I've had a little, maybe 0.6, it works, but you want to keep it below 0.5. Okay, it's finished. You can see, just like in coaxial cable where we had a heat shrink, it does the same thing with the fiber. You can see where it kind of sealed that little tube over there. I'm still close to the connector. It didn't suck out. If it sucks out, you're gonna have to cut another connector. Okay, they got a cooling tray right here. You can set that in the cooling tray. You want it to cool for no less than a minute, because if you try to put that connector on, you're gonna have a tough time, especially with 3mm connectors. You're gonna have a tough time sliding that green connector over this sleeve. It's gonna bind up on you, and you're gonna have to cut a whole new connector. So give it at least a minute and a half. If here's a little trick though, if you do pull the sleeve over, the connector over the sleeve, and it binds up on you, and you're having a tough time, you can reheat it. You can heat it again. It won't damage the fiber. Go ahead.
In the cooling mechanism, do you have to? Is it a setting where you have to press cooling? Or
No, it's just a tray you sit
Just a
in.
tray you sit, okay.
Yes. While we wait on that to cool, I can get my connectors out that I'm gonna put on here. Okay. Now here's the real tricky part that you want to pay closely attention to. Okay, now that that has cooled off, I can push my green connector up to the tube, and I kind of work it up by spinning it a little bit. It's sliding real easy. Doesn't always work this way, but right now it is working really good. That's how you want it to do. You want it to slide real easy, just like that. Now this is a part that we really want to get right. You definitely have to pay attention to this. On this green connector, you could see a little marker on the black part. You want to match that little marker with this red mark on the white part when you push that connector up close. Now when I push it up close, I'm going to hold it in place, and I'm going to grab the white part with my finger, and now I can pull this plastic off. It comes right off. I'm going to put my little connector on here, and you see little grooves in the top part of this white piece, and if I flip it over, you see it's flat. That's the bottom part. Okay, I want to make sure I get this right. I do not want the bottom part turned up. I want it turned down. I want the top part up with the two little grooves. You see the little grooves up there. You want to match them with that little black part piece you see on there and that red piece. You want to slide it in straight, and listen. You want to listen for a click. If you hear that click, that's a good sound. That means you have a good connector. You got it on there right, and now you can take this cover part of the connector, and this groove should be up, and it should go over the top part. You just slide it straight. You hear it snap, and you want it loose, just like that. If it's tight, if you're pulling it back and forth and it's tight, you're going to have to cut another connector. Leave this piece on until you're ready to check light. This is just to protect the connector. And that's pretty much it to making a connector.
Good job.
We're going to look at this connector closely so you can see exactly what I'm referring to. These little notches on the top, we call like little bevel notches right here. These little notches on the top, these are the ones I'm referring to, where you want facing up in the air. If you can get a close-up shot so you can see those little notches, that's on the top of the connector. Now I'm going to flip this around, and you can see the flat, how flat that is. You want that facing downward. You want the bevel notches up top, and you want the flat part downward. And when you take this out and put it together, and you go to push this onto the connector, you want these notches going into that red dot. It has to go straight on top. Both of them have to be on top, and it has to slide in like that. Then it'll fit perfect. If you have this upside down, it's not going to work. You're not going to get a good connection. You're going to have to cut a new connector because you probably break the fiber. And always keep this cap right here on here until you're done making your connector. And that's just to keep the fiber safe and clean.